Hello, it is Rachel, and in my most recent podcast episode, I talked about how to make it more likely that your children are going to use healthy coping mechanisms in the moment when they're feeling frustrated or disappointed or some other big emotion. Because what you may know is that a lot of the negative behavior we see in those moments when kids are told they can't have something or they can't do something, what their response is often a sign of an unhealthy coping mechanism. When they're being disrespectful or melting down or shutting down, they're feeling these feelings and they don't know how to handle them in a mature and responsible way. Now, with some kids, we can say to them, okay, take some deep breaths, you're going to be okay, or we can say walk it off, and they'll actually listen and use these healthier coping skills. But most kids, you probably know this from experience, when we suggest they take some deep breaths or use their words, they don't do that. And that's because they're already too deep in this place of discomfort, or what I call yuck. So this leads to my advice for you, which is when children are in this state of yuck and they're not listening to you when you're suggesting coping skills, which they probably won't, don't engage with their yuck. Just stop talking and stop engaging with them. That's actually advice not just with children, but with adults as well. Do not engage with the yuck. And the reason I say that is actually based on a little bit of brain science. Basically, when a child is feeling uncomfortable, they're feeling out of control or frustrated, what's happened is their brain senses that discomfort as a threat, so their fight or flight response has kicked in. One of the things the fight or flight response does is it shuts off our access to the part of the brain that is able to use our words and think more logically and calm down and take some deep breath. So when they're in that space, they can't actually do what you ask them to do. And the more you try to engage with them, the bigger their discomfort or yuck gets and the longer it takes. Ultimately, what they have to do is what I call traveling the yuck curve. When their fight or flight response has already kicked in, basically they're going to get more and more upset. Eventually, though, their yuck will reach a peak and it will come down. And it's once they've traveled the curve that they can re-access that part of the brain that allows them to calm down and use their words and take deep breaths and for things to get better. But when they're on that curve, we don't want to engage with them because we're talking to their fight or flight response in that moment. Their fight or flight response is not going to be logical or respectful. It just doesn't work that way. So what we want to do is let them naturally, and they will naturally travel that yuck curve. So a lot of parents will ask, well, what do I do instead in that moment? Well, this is a whole long lesson that I teach, but I'll give you some quick tips right now. One of the things you want to do when they're on that curve instead of engaging is to regulate yourself instead. Because when they are in fight or flight, they actually sense your energy. And if they sense that you're trying to get them to do something, it's going to upset them more than if they sense that you yourself are regulating and you are calm and in control. So focus on yourself and not what they are doing. The second thing you want to think about, ideally, and not all of us can do this, sometimes I can't do it either, is to actually stay present without getting sucked in. So you're not ignoring them. You're actually there with them. You're just not getting sucked in. That's what they need because, again, when they sense that there's an adult there who is present and who can help them through this without getting sucked in, they're more likely to travel that yuck curve more quickly. And then that's when they can do the things that we want them to do, whether it's act more responsible, be more respectful, calm down, whatever it is. So you want to think about yourself in that moment and not changing them. Do not engage with their yuck. Now, if you do want to learn about how to encourage them to use their own strategies, since you don't want to be engaging with it, I would suggest that you check out my latest podcast episode. You can find that at rachel-bailey.com/88. I'll be back again soon with more tips for you. See you then.